from languages such as Farsi or Persian, Arabic, Hindvi or colloquial Hindi, Urdu, and Punjabi, and maybe even something in Saraiki or Sindhi if I'm so in the mood. If I occasionally yawn, you must forgive me because it's past midnight here now, and but I will definitely try not to do that. Um, so the whole question is that if a way of life slowly disappears, it ceases to be, does it actually vanish from the face of earth, uh, or or is it? Oh, I just see Noman Bhai is here. Greetings to dear Noman.
Assalamualaikum. Assalamualaikum.
Now,
It's good to see you, Dhruv bhai, in a while. And thanks, Ashabaji, for scheduling this excellent session.
great to see you. And my friend Pankaj Saab is also here. Great to see Pankaj as well. So as I was saying, that I personally believe that civilizations don't vanish; they get subsumed into whatever comes next, and many things carry on. If you look at faith, I mean, if you look at the Abrahamic faith, because we are going to be talking about mysticism that emerged primarily from these faiths. A lot of practices, even directly till today, which are followed in the religion, such as Hajj, many of those practices are actually pre-Islamic, so it's not never so. One must never label things such as cultural genocide, and I think this is a great bogey which is used to foist upon us a kind of fake kind of nationalism, hyper nationalism, which then tries to divide people based on identity. And so, in this landscape, and this is nothing new, states rise and fall based on either linguistic groups or based on groups loosely sort of united by one religion or faith. But the ideas, they what are they? The ideas that they rest on are all they are not coming from Mars or Venus. They are all practices that have slowly evolved and are just taken for granted. So it's never so simple to say that, oh, this civilization vanished at the expense of that civilization, because then it'll lead to a kind of a fake, a kind of a manufactured hatred, which will then last for generations. And so the Sufis are a fantastic example of this. And I have a whole bunch of information here which I could bother you with, but I won't. I will actually pick and choose, because I see it's so great to actually be introduced to everybody, because then you get the lay of the land. You get to know which things to stress on, and I think the that is a very good adab. So one of the first things the Sufis taught is adab, right? And the adab and the adab tarazi and the ihtiram, the taqaza of that ihtiram behooves us to take into consideration everybody who's there, to welcome them, whether you know them or don't, whether you, how do we say these days, whether you vibe off of them or they vibe off of you or you don't. You welcome them with open arms, and you share with them everything equally. And that is the adab of the Sufi. When Mevlana Jalaluddin Rumi says, Baza, Baza, Haranche Hasti Baza, come, whoever you are. And then he goes on to say, Garkha Fero, Gabro, But Parasti Baza. It doesn't matter which creed, which faith, which way you belong to, just come. Bargahe ma, bargahe na umidi nist. Sad hazar toba shekasti baza. Some say dargahe ma, dargahe na umidi nist. Sad hazar. So this space of mind, this space, this third space, this shared space, is not a space. Some translations say this caravan, but we can also take that translation. So this space, this movement of is a movement of hope. It is not a movement of despair. So even if you have broken your vows 1,000 times, come again. yet again, come, because we value your humanness, we value uh, everything that you are, all those qualities that even you may not perceive. We want to perceive them, we want to celebrate them, and we want to bring forth in you and us the very best of you. So with these words, I bid you welcome, and it is my sincere hope that we will all, including myself, benefit from this. And this whole period of lockdown has been exactly that. It has just been a period of self reflection for those who have taken hikmat from these very fraught times. It has been a process of going deep into the self, or as a sheikh I really loved used to say, the cave of the heart, and going deep within and finding one's very own being there, and then working back from there once again. So I think a lot of people, and not just thinking people, but a lot of people were forced into confronting themselves, and then eventually a lot of things came out, a lot of things come out. And I think in many, many ways, the way we are meeting here in this way, I am meeting people I haven't met for years. People who haven't met me for years are meeting me, and we are all meeting each other in a very strange way, full of matrices and algorithms and algebra and I don't know, LED screens and all that. So we are meeting each other in this way, as bits, right? Bits of little digibytes rather than the whole. But still, when you complete that picture, it becomes a whole. So I feel very connected to all of you, and I'm sure it'll be a very engaging time for me as well. So we were speaking about the shrine of Khwaja Nizamuddin Aulia. So I am about 1 mile from the shrine, and over the years, some of you who have come to Delhi, I have taken you there, and others may have gone there with others. And so I was planning to begin with the Antecedents of Sama, which we'll get into a little later on. We have time. We have lots of time. But I'd like to begin with putting it into context for you, with the idea that let's keep in mind this hospice, this shrine, which has been around for 750 years or so, and how it has been a space of sharing each other's joys, each other's sorrows, sharing one's deepest, desires, sharing what is inside and what cannot be shared with anybody else. So Khwaja Nizamuddin Aulia has been our collective pasaban for so many centuries. So many requests and supplications and du'as have been done there to the Creator, to the Divine from that place, hoping that they will be accepted. So, but you see, how did it all begin? And it all began with this one person who came to Delhi, the city of Delhi, trying to sit as a judge in an exam. And he wanted actually to be a judge, right? He wanted to be a qazi. And he came, like we give these civil service exams now, right? So he came to give that examination, and he failed that examination. And so he was very distraught. And then somebody decided to give him a little room to stay. And when he was in that room doing his muraqabah, his meditation, he was met by a young man known as Hazrat Amir Khusro, known later as Hazrat Amir Khusro. Before that, he was known as Abul Hasan Yaminuddin. And so Abul Hasan meets Khwaja Nizamuddin Aulia, or Nizamuddin as he was known as that time. And then this meeting is a very momentous meeting in time. And we will speak of this in the next week, because it will lead into how the Sufi music becomes formalized at the shrine of Khwaja Sahib. But there is one very beautiful poem written by Khwaja Nizamuddin Aulia, which I would like to sing for all of you. And this is a salam. Now, for those of you who don't know what a salam is, Salam is something which is sung in praise of the prophets, and especially the last Abrahamic prophet, who was Huzur Muhammad Sahib, peace be upon him. And so he was in Medina, right? And Khwaja Nizamuddin Aulia is in Delhi, and so Khwaja Nizamuddin Aulia doesn't have a jet plane or a live by drone telecast of what's going on there at Medina. So he bids the wind, he asks the wind, in the very fashion of the music of the Psalms of the Prophet David, to do his obeisance, his prayers, and display his devotion in his stead. So the translation is actually right. Do we have a translation of this? We have a translation, but I'll translate it to you right after I sing it for you. So that would be something which will be, and then later we will supply you with this text as well. So this I have chosen this because this particular song or this particular kalam has been being sung at the shrine of Khwaja Nizamuddin Aulia every day for at least the last 500 years in this very melody, this particular melody, which is loosely based around the Indian raga known as Bhairavi. And now Bhairav is one avatar of Lord Shiva, which is something which is kind of a cosmic avatar, right? And this raga Bhairavi is from an Indic system of music, but just like the maqams in the Arabic and Persian system, like, you have Ushak maqam and Rast maqam and Husseini maqam, and so similarly we have Raga Bhairav and Raga Kafi and Raga Khammaj. So these are the Indic maqams and melodies. Again, we will also devote a lot of time to these later on. So to begin with, let us see how this salam was sung. And often when I'm there at the shrine, I join into this salam, and it's really, really amazing. And it is sung every day when the gates of his shrine are closed. And it is considered Khwaja Nizamuddin, who used to receive so many visitors, who used to receive so many people asking him to pray for them, is himself asking the wind to pray for him. So let's see how this one goes, and then we'll move ahead from there. Yeah. Sabab suve Madina rukun sabab suve Madina rukun azim dua go salam barfa sabab suve Madina rukun azim dua go salam barfa बागिरदे शाह रसूल बेगर दो बागिरदे शाह रसूल बेगर दो बसत तजर्रो पयाम बरखा सबब بشوز منصورت مثالی بشوز منصورت مثالی نماز بگزار دراجا بشوز منصورت مثالی نماز بگزار دراجا بلہن خوش سورہ محمد بلہن خوش سورہ محمد تمام اندر قیام برخواہ سبب سوے مدینہ روکن سبب سوے مدینہ روکن عظیم دعاگو سلام برخواہ بابا بابا برحمت گہے گزر کن بابا برحمت گہے گزر کن بابا بے جبریل گے جبی سا بابا بے رحمت گہے گزر کن بابا بے جبریل گے جبی سا سلام ربی علی حبیبی سلام ربی سلام ربی سلام ربی علی حبیبی بابا بے بگاہ بابو سلام برخواہ سبب سوئے مدینہ روکن سبب سوئے مدینہ روکن عظیم دعاگو سلام برخواہ باگرد شاہ رسول بگر دو باگرد شاہ رسول بگر دو بس تذر و پیام برخواہ سبب And in the end, Khaja Nizamuddin says, بلہن داود ہم نواشا بلہن داود ہم نواشا بنا لائے درد آشنا شو بلہن داود ہم نواشا بنا لائے درد آشنا شو بابز میں پیغم بری غزل را بابز میں پیغم بری غزل را زیبد عاجز نظام برخواہ سبب سوئے مدینہ روکن سبب سوئے مدینہ روکن عظیم دعاگو سلام برخواہ अज़ीं बुआगो सलाम बरखा अज़ीं बुआगो सलाम बरखा. O wind, turn your direction to Medina. I can't go there, but you go there in my stead and deliver this humble beadsman. Deliver this humble beadsman's greetings of peace. Flow around the king of the prophets, and rolling in the sacred dust of his abode, present my salams with abject humility. Make you a visage in my likeness. Since I can't go there, and you can form into anything, make a visage, as it were, in my likeness. When you go, and go inside and offer prayers in my stead, and there in a lilting voice recite verse by verse the entire chapter named after the Holy Prophet, standing respectfully, sometimes passing through the gates of mercy, sometimes bowing your head deeply at the gate of Gabriel. Offer with great love the peace of my Lord to the Holy Prophet at the gates of peace. Sing in the voice of the Prophet David himself. Sing in the voice of the Prophet David himself this lament of painful sorrow with the greatest humility in the assembly of the blessed messenger of God, of his slave Nizamuddin, of his slave Nizamuddin. So this is what we talk about. A lot of people ask me from the Hindu community that what is this? This is so similar to when we adulate Lord Krishna or Lord Rama. How is this? We love our avatars, our messengers in such a similar way. So are you praying to this messenger? Are you adulating the messenger? Are you equating them with the creator? No, we are loving the messenger for the message and the way it was delivered. And for the love showered upon the messenger by the divine who sent this messenger. And so in that context, loving the messenger is loving the message, and loving the message is loving the one who sent the message. So Khwaja Nizamuddin is very clear about the fact that his spiritual lineage and his spiritual yearning lies with Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and so because he cannot be there himself, he is sending the wind with his message. And this theme is also, you can see this theme in fact in even pre-Islamic Arabian poetry, because the one thing which the Arabs were, whatever else they were before the arrival of Islam, they were amazing poets. I mean, the depth of poetry which you see in Arabic, the Arabic poetic corpus is just incredible. So they knew how to express themselves, and so even they have adulated and loved very deeply in the poetic traditions, both preceding and which arrive with the arrival of Islam. And they are, of course, being fed into by the streams also of the other Abrahamic religions, and maybe even religions that preceded those. So for the people in India now, this amazingly moving way of praising, which people ask me, is this sagun bhakti, nirgun bhakti, is this madhura bhakti? What kind of bhakti is this? So I always say to them that the shakti is in the bhakti. It doesn't matter what kind of bhakti it is, as long as you have devotion, you will get the benefits from it. So the great syncretic experiment that the Indian civilization is, we eventually have this fantastic, if you look at Sikhism, the founder of this sect, Guru Nanak Ji, imagine he composes a text known as the Guru Granth Sahib, whose composition begins in his life. And in that we see the sayings of Baba Fariduddin Ganshakar, who is the Piro Murshid, the guru of Khwaja Nizamuddin Auliya, who was the writer of this particular piece which I was singing just now. And its composer was probably someone like a Mia Samti, a student of Hazrat Amir Khusro, and we will get into that a little later on as to the lineage of the Kawal Bache Gharana, or the school of music, which began from the time of Hazrat Amir Khusro. So we see that Baba Farid wrote not just in Farsi and Arabic, he also wrote very simple poetry in the beautiful dialect of Punjabi. And Punjabi has this very amazing way of expressing the simplest of things in the most heartwarming and the most meaningful way. So he's so important to the Sikhs. And then we see that saints like Kabir are also being included in this text. So this is a success story of Indian syncretism, where the ideas of Wahdat and the ideas of Muhabbat, the ideas of Insaniyat are all being borrowed and shared and built upon by this civilization. And Sufism and Sufi music in the Indian subcontinent is directly an amalgamation of all of these streams. For example, now I want to just talk a little bit about, the antecedents of Sama. We know for a fact that there were some prophets in the Abrahamic tradition upon whom books were sent. And one of these prophets who was given the Psalms or the Zubur was known as the Prophet David, alayhi salam. And Hazrat Dawood, or Prophet David, is considered, in a sense, you must have heard this phrase when I was singing, Balehne Dawood Ham Nawasho. So, Balehne Dawoodi, literally in Urdu, it just means singing in the human voice, right? Using the human voice to sing. Whereas, if you look at the deeper meanings of Lehne Dawoodi or Al-Lehne Dawoodi, it would be something like maybe the style, the manner as prescribed and practiced by the Prophet David. And we see that he is singing using an instrument called the Narsinje or the Narsing. And this has been told to him, like God orders him how to praise him. Praise me with the Narsing, sing with it. And, so sing the Psalms. And the Psalms have a P in them, right? The P is silent in the Zabur. But if you think about it, Sam Veda, the Sama Veda, out of the 4 Vedas, is the only Veda which is prescribed to be recited in a style of singing, not as reciting mantras as you do in a drone, but in a kind of actually singing in different modes and melodies, right? And then we have Sama, right? So the Psalms and Sama and Sama. Now the Sama is the next step to all of this. It means the hearing of, the hearing of and the absorbing of, as well as the reciting of this sound. And the sound which has been called in Sanskrit as Anahatnad, the unstruck sound, right? So the antecedents of Sama lie in the unstruck sound itself, right back to what in the Islamic scriptures is commonly referred to as Kun, right? Or in the Hindu scriptures as Om, right? So we see that the antecedents to Sama lie right back to the very beginning of what we call human consciousness, or when the soul is animated and by the Lord, who asks, "Say, who is your Lord?" Right? All the way back to Khalubala. So, in this sense, the antecedents of Sama, we can say that if you look at it from a holistic point of view, music is part of the human experience, right? So if we put it in another language, music is part of the human experience. and nothing and no one can take it away. Often, often to test you, Sufi may ask you, "Oh, but isn't music forbidden in our faith? Why do you sing music, brother? Don't you have anything else to do?" So to them, my reply always is, "I tried my best to leave it, but it doesn't leave me." So music is a part of the human experience, and whatever you do, you cannot remove making melodic notes or melodic structures or creating or expressing melodic sound from your voice or from things around you. There's a very famous opinion on music by the person known as Hujjatul Islam, Hazrat Imam Ghazali. And Hazrat Imam Ghazali says in his fatwa that for those who don't like music or who say it shouldn't be practiced, can you stop the sound of the singing of the birds every day at dusk and dawn, and then full stop. So in a sense, I think the simple thing is that music is very deeply ingrained in us, and in fact, Hazrat Amir Khusro and many others held the view that the cosmos, is chanting, and you just have to listen to it. And when our souls were sent into our bodies, it was done as a very well known Sufi and Imam from Turkey once told me. He said that he believes that the question Qalu Bala of the time of Qalu Bala was asked in a great music, a celestial music, a divine music, right? And then the soul, when it saw the human body, it became alarmed, thinking, "What am I being sent into? What am I getting into here?" And so it had to be literally lulled into kind of going into this body with music. It had to be kind of sent in there with music. The angels, and then Hazrat Amir Khusro says, when the angels sang in the voice of David. So there is a very nice. He also says that, right? So Lehne Dawoodi once again. So a very famous qawwal known as Aziz Mia from Pakistan. He says that on the day of reckoning, I will not rise from my grave until you call out to me in a familiar voice, the voice of David. So the thing is that this link we have with nada, with music, with sama, and which we will keep building upon, and more information, more and more singing, and we have to find some way of ensuring that all of you sing, even if your mics are muted. Does not leave us. It's part of us in a very, very deep way. The vocalization of music is something that was first done. Like we know that from the earliest times, men and women would use their voices. And slowly hear their own voices and see the range, the depth, the amount of power these voices had. And if you even today, if you listen to a voice which is not from inherently urban experience, but from a rural experience or an experience of the mountains, Pega here is from Iran, yeah. If you hear the voice of Shahram Naziri, for example, even in a small closed room, his training and his incredible range, and of course his passion can create an echo chamber even in a room. If a room has soundproofing, I'm sitting in a room with soundproofing, and I have a problem hitting the high notes without these speakers. But with Shahram Saab, he's a resonating chamber inside. There's a resonating chamber inside him, so he can actually create that whole experience. It'll sound like you're in a remote village by a stream, surrounded by a valley, and there's a voice coming at you from far away, singing at you, Maulana Rumi or Hafiz, or in the most lilting, amazing, almost, a voice which is like just, uh, you know, it like the jingle of bells or something. It's like the rustling of leaves. So it's like the wind. So this kind of sonic experience is, what we have to talk about in Sufi music is what we call, or Sidi Asif, who's here with us, who calls the sonic boom. This is the sonic boom, and in this, in this experience, when we talk about the sonic boom, what are the examples we see around us? If you hear hymns being sung, if you hear the azan being recited, if you hear certain types of folk music, you understand that they are coming from an experience which is so powerful that listening to that sound can be 100% life changing and transforming, and a sort of an experience in which you transgress and transcend. And that is exactly what Sufi music is engineered to do. Now, the thing is that from next week we're going to go into details, like, we're going to look at timelines, and I'm keeping it deliberately general today, because I want you all to know, that we are going to be dealing with, a lot of things, from Baba Bulle Shah to Guru Nanak and Maulana Rumi and Hazrat Amir Khusro. But today is something very, very general. Is to try and open you up to the possibility that there is a sonic boom which can change your life. And many of you, I am sure, would have experienced something oral in a way which completely changed the way you look at yourself, or the way you think, or your life. And that would have happened in a time of your life where you were still absorbing a lot of things, and then those musical memories become, fundamental to your life, in a way where they become the building blocks of your life. So, as I said before, that for the oral intangible tradition, the memory is the pedagogy, and there is no recorder, there is nothing. There is instead a sonic boom whose reverberations are emitted and transmitted from generation to generation, and then from the time of Kun or Khalu Bala, that or Nad Brahma, or Om, that sound resonates through history, through time and space, and comes to us. So in a way, that's like, those lights of those stars which are breaking, or being destroyed far away, which come to you millions of years later. So for example, human beings are a wrinkle in time, yeah. But to give that analogy, this particular piece which I just sung for you is coming at you directly in almost the same way it has been sung for at least 500 years, right? So now this is the power of oral transmission. And because what is so interesting is that when we learn, like in our system, we learn music orally. Like the Kawal, now people keep diaries and stuff to remember songs and all. That's a different thing. But those are just lyrics. I mean, there'll be nothing written down about the notes or the meter. And I have a question here which says, what does faya mean? I don't know what faya means. Oh, you mean kun, faya kun? Okay. We'll get into that. We'll get into that in a bit. But it means be and it is, right? So there is one line in the chapter on Mary, known as Surat al-Maryam in the Quran Sharif, and in other places as well, where Mary says to an angel, Hazrat Maryam says to an angel, but how can I be with child when I have never been? in any such situation which will lead me to being with a child. And so the angel says, you don't know, my Lord. The Lord says, be, and it is. It's also there in Surah Al-Baqarah, and so it is mentioned in a few places in the Quran Sharif. And so this be and it is very, very important for the Sufis. And there is a song composed by A.R. Rahman Saab, which I'm sure many of you have enjoyed, and that is known as Kun Fayakun. And the lyrics are these days we don't have many good lyric writers, but the basic meaning is when even nothing was nothing, then there was the truth, there was the divine, there was the creator who said be, and it is. So yes, as Aisha ji says, please don't hesitate. Please ask anything you want in the messages here in the chat. And and yes, I see there are many. Please read Sidi Asif's comments as well. They are very, very enlightening. And I ask any one of you to please keep joining in with your interventions and your experiences. So we were talking about the sonic experience as transmitted in an oral heritage. So the one thing I'll point out is that this comes from something called voice culture. And the easiest way to understand voice culture is that if you eat fast food, right? Like, for instance, if you go and eat fast food, then everything you listen to will be of the same nature, whether you like it or not. So, for example, Ustad Bade Ghulam Ali Khan Saab, very, very one of the greatest singers of our time, and many of you who've seen the film Mughal-e-Azam will know that he's given some great songs in that. And so Ustad Bade Ghulam Ali Khan Saab had a most buttery voice, like a voice like butter, literally. And he says, someone asked him how. So he says, well, I eat copious amounts of clarified butter, and I eat copious amounts of, chicken and, lamb, and roasted in this way with these spices. And so one day, he used to carry his own food with him, right? So there's a culture of food which is also associated with this. In fact, we did a lot of work on something called the diet of the Sufis, and it's very varied. Trust me, while some would just eat figs and dates, others would have very elaborate meals, and it all depended on the kind of mystic practices. And many would listen to music, many would not listen to music. So it was very varied. For instance, we have Hazrat Ghausul Azam, one of the very, high ranks of Sufis, who did not forbid anyone from going to Sama, but he was not very ardent admirer of Sama, and because he thought that it may very easily lead one to be distracted from one's own practice, one's meditative or spiritual practices. And then so the Qadris, when I'm talking about the early Qadriya silsila, and then from this silsila branches out a silsila known as the Chishtiya, which comes to India. And the Chishtiya silsila, they are ardent lovers of music. They come to a subcontinent which is full of music, and they use Sufi music or Qawwali as the main vehicle to spread their message. So in this sense, it's very varied. So similarly, ghiza or food is also very varied. Some Sufis eat very rich food, some eat very frugally. So it's really, really very, everything is interlinked. So I was telling you about Bade Ghulam Ali Khan. Bade Ghulam Ali Khan used to say, people say my singing smells of kebab, right? He said, people say my singing smells of kebab. So how can you feed me this vegetarian food? I'm going to roast a chicken in your backyard, and I'm going to completely drench it in desi ghee, and then you will see my concert in the evening. But if I eat this bread with this lentil and these 3 types of vegetables you have given me, and he uses the choicest of expletives in Punjabi, which I won't repeat here. And then after that, the person who was writing down the anecdote said, and that evening the concert was just amazing. And we felt that we were in such a warm space that we had. So when I began training in music, I was told about this. I was told that if I came after eating dal and sabzi, then I might just burp my way through my lesson. And I should rather eat something heavy and something that'll keep me going. And then to set my voice, I should have a betel leaf, with a little bit of lime and something smeared on it. And well, later on, Kavals changed their ideas about food, and then they said, I love to drink Pepsi before a concert. And then those Kavals ruined their voices. So, as I said, so the minute you take somebody out of their cultural, culinary, even geographical context, right? The everything that goes around. Again, with Bade Ghulam Ali Khan Saab, he went to Pakistan in 1947, and then he very quickly came back. He was like, no, 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 I can't stay here. I mean, this is horrible, horrible, horrible. And he just came back to his beloved, village, and that's where he stayed. And so, because language, food, culture, dress, geography, these are very important. This is how music develops. And when you hear about Amir Khusro, the father of Sufi music of the Indian subcontinent, the father of Qawwali, which is this the stress, the most stressed subject discussed in this whole series, you will be amazed and shocked to hear some of the stories which he talks about. I mean, Hazrat Amir Khusro has described in India everything from betel leaves to mangoes, and from people churning milk to make butter. And it's incredible how he has described India, and he says that his music is a direct result of being among all those sights and sounds and smells. And so the whole idea is that we must also understand that the Sufis never tried to change the cultural context of wherever they went. They in fact adopted those cultures. Now this is the thing, including musical cultures. So why do the Chishti Sufis, who were the primary Sufi silsila in the Indian subcontinent, and still are, wear ochre-colored or saffron-colored robes, when today the political establishment in India has completely hijacked that color for their own, benefits and gain, because this was the color of spirituality in India. They said that the Jainas, the Buddhists, and the Hindus, they would all wear this color. The great Faridayas, why do they wear this ajrak, which was just given to me a few days ago as a gift? Because ajrak is a pattern which is directly associated with a very ancient Sindhi, tie and dye and sort of fabric culture. And so, I have never seen Abida Parveen or Farida Yas Saab wear anything which is not made of ajrak. And even though Farida Yas Saab's ancestors come from Delhi Gharana, the same Delhi Gharana which we'll be talking about. In fact, I'll tell you, we did a seminar on partition and music in 2008, where the two Delhi Gharanas, the one from Karachi and the one from Delhi, had a big battle royale in the seminar hall, talking about who's the real Delhi Gharana. And then one of the babs that were thrown at them were like, you guys wear ajrak, that's Sindhi, so that proves that we are the original Delhi Gharana. So anyway, all this funny stuff happens in the world of music. But they're all descended from Ustad Tanras Khan, and Ustad Tanras Khan, as we'll discuss later, is a very important figure in the evolution of the Delhi Gharana, and a descendant of the students of Hazrat Amir Khusro. So what I was talking about earlier was how memory as pedagogy and oral heritage, intangible heritage, learning music in an environment where whose cultural context is alive and throbbing, and not completely sanitized in the halls of some kind of institution, or bound by its rules, is very, very important, because once you imbibe it, once you interiorize it, then of course it's a different story. But until you interiorize that context, what happens when you interiorize something, right? You can take it anywhere with you. So once you interiorize something, you can carry it anywhere with you. But if you're clutching at straws and suddenly you're taken away from your context, then what are you going to do? You'll be completely lost. You'll be lost, right? So the whole idea is exactly. So the whole idea is that this oral heritage is being linked to the Nad Brahma, or the Anahat Nad, and the very beginning of. So why did people not note down music? They said that every soul hears music in its own unique vibration, right? Now, this is something I want to talk about just a little bit, because, as I said, many people here are associated with music. So now, Khwaja Nizamuddin Auliya, he says that when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Al-ast bi rabbikum, batao kaun hai tumhara khuda, say, who is your Lord? Each soul heard this sound in a customized, like, we have all that universal audio software now, which we can customize. So this is a customization in prehistoric times, yeah? So in the times when all the souls are living in arwah, in the land of the souls, there is a customized vibration or a frequency which is emitted to each soul, and each soul hears it in a particular melodic mode, which we know as maqam in Central Asia, and we know as, or awazat in some places, or we know as raga or mode, right? Some people call it scales or standards, but primarily we are going to be talking about modes, because scales and standards are set. Modes have microtones, right? And the microtones is where the whole secret lies. So we'll also be talking about the Shruti systems, or the microtones. Later on. So each soul hears this sound in their own frequency. And Khwaja Sahab thought that, he claimed that I heard it in Raga Purvi, right? Raga Purvi is my favorite raga, and I heard this in that raga. And so many years later, when Hazrat Amir Khusro heard this, he was he asked his students to compose then songs in that raga, because Khwaja Sahib loved that, along with other ragas which he liked, such as Bahar and Basant and Todi, etc. But so this one very nice anecdote from the Khamsa of Hazrat Amir Khusro. So Nizami Ganjavi, of course, started this whole style of writing Khamsa, but Hazrat Amir Khusro also wrote his Khamsa, which has 5 romances, and they are all allegorical because they are Sufi romances. So they are romance stories, but they are talking about Sufi wisdom. So in that, in this, he says, Kaan roos ke ruhe Adam Ahmad babadan. Kaan roos ke ruhe Adam Ahmad babadan. Guftan dartan dara ne Ahmad dartan. Right? So the day the soul of Adam was asked to enter the body of Adam, it refused. Right? It refused the direct command, and it said, now I'm extrapolating, this seems to be some strange piece of flesh and bone which comes with apparently an expiry date. Why, O Lord, would you want to separate me from yourself and put me in there and send me off into outer space? I don't know. I'm not going. Sukaruz ke ruhe Adam Ahmad babadan guftan dartan dara ne Ahmad dartan. And then the next line is Khwandan Qudsiyan bilehne Dawood. So when the angels, Qudsiya, when the angels sang in the lilting most melodic, charming, attractive, and familiar human voice, the voice of David, the prophet David, who came later, right? Now, this is the thing, because everything is preordained, everything is part of a plan, or so we believe. So, so he's using this as a metaphor. So, Suni hui awaaz mein pukarna mujhe, sing to me in a voice which resonates with me, which I understand. There's a very a beautiful notion that the sounds which small babies make for the first couple of months of their life are the sounds of angels. They're speaking in a language which is not of here, but of where they have come from, or where their souls have come from. So anyway, but that's again a completely different subject. But so the clearly Amir Khusro is saying that the language of angels is something which we don't understand, but the language of human beings is something we understand. So then God does a favor to us by speaking to us in a language we understand, and both teaching us and also favoring us at the same time. So आरूज के रूहे आदम आमद बबदन गुफ्तन दरतन दरा ने आमद दरतन ख़ानदान कुदसियान बिलहन दाऊद दरतन दरतन दरा है आमद दरतन. Come in, go in, they said, and so it went in, singing and dancing. And now the other part is that why is Hazrat Amir Khusro using now this language? It's not so simple to say this is Farsi. Yes, it is Farsi, but he's using something called tarana here. He's using something called tarana, which we'll touch on later, but I'll touch on it very briefly right now. We'll discuss it in more detail later. Hopefully, Professor Ali Asani will also throw some light on the linguistic genius and the usage of. So, tarana are a set of monosyllables which are something not immediately understandable by us, but they are meant for the understanding of the arifs, or those who know that language. For example, Ya lali, ya lali, ya la, ya lale, ham tom ta na 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 ta na 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 re, dare dile, dare dani. Very famous tarana from the refrain, or the verse rather, of a famous Qawwali, which we will sing hopefully next week. Man kunto maula wa haza aliyun maula, which is a qal tarana. So he's even here he's hinting at that, and I just want to point out that there is a very ancient system of music in India known as Dhrupad, and in Dhrupad tarana is often used, dere tana tom na 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 na, but in Dhrupad they say that it says Om Ananta Hari Narayan is the root of all the tarana, right? And the Muslim Dhrupad singers say that Dhrupad means, in the alap of the Dhrupad is Allah Aap, or coming from or being inspired by the truth of God Himself. So this system, you don't find this kind of usage in modern Iranian or modern day Iranian, or or the Farsi which is used in Central Asia. Dartan dara. This has a meter to it, right? Dartan dara he amad dartan. So, and if you hear the Faridaya's rendition, they are using a tarana which is from the Indic tradition in the beginning, and this is Trivat, the language of the percussive instrument known as tabla and pakhavaj. So it goes something like this, and I think Aisha ji, you have shared a link with everybody, and so you'll be able to view that as well. It goes something like this. So this is Raga Darbari. This rag was developed by the court musician of Emperor Akbar, known as Mia Tan Sen, and the root raga, or the parent raga, is Kanhada, which is from the Carnatic tradition. Kanhada literally means Kannada. So, so it's Darbari Kanhada. Kran dha 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 dha. Dha kid tak dhum tit ka taga di. Kran dha 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 dha. Karuz ke ruhe adam amad babadan. Guftan dartan darane amad dartan. खानदान कुदसियान बलहन दाऊद खानदान कुदसियान बलहन दाऊद दरतन दराहे आमद दरतन क्रान धा 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 तिट धा किट तक धुम तिट कति गदि क्रान. So dha kita taka dum tita kata gadigina da dha dha. So this is the language of the tabla or the pakhavaj. And so Hazrat Amir Khusro is, or the students of Hazrat Amir Khusro who followed his directions, they were his orchestra basically. Somebody recently asked me, who's your favorite composer? A.R. Rahman? I said, no, it's Amir Khusro. And they said, who's that? Anyway, so he's what they're doing is they are blending consciously the Indic tradition. Hazrat Amir Khusro said the how do we say, the difference between Turk and Hindu has been blurred today. India and Khorasan have become one. So culturally speaking, this was his great goal and his great achievement, to create a distinct culture by and the word syncretic is interesting because it means blending two things which cannot always be blended in a blender. They might explode, right? So the idea is, how do you do it in a way where they can harmoniously coexist? And so, yet not compromising at all on either of them or your very own identity as well, which is equally important and sacrosanct. So Hazrat Amir Khusro lived that reality with the utmost grace. And as I said, we will be discussing a lot of anecdotes, especially to do with his relationship with Khwaja Sahab, especially to do with, the era in which he lived, and a lot of the music like ghazal, qawwali, and other music which we enjoyed today, Indian classical music, how a lot of that music was actually formed in that era. The other thing which we'll be doing is we will actually be singing too. And some or all of you may not be comfortable with singing, some of you may be, some of you may not. But I would really be happy if you, even if your mics are muted, do try and sing along to some of the things which we do. And we will be sending you a list of things to view, to listen, and even read sometimes at the beginning of each lesson, each week. And so it would be really nice to vocalize also, because the whole thing about qawwali and music in general is that it's supposed to be a liberating experience as an experience. And so there has to be some aspect of joining along and in the shughal, and singing and then feeling that feeling for yourself as well, and not just being listeners but also being participants. So I think let's see, I have pretty much covered some of the topics I wanted to cover. So I would invite some conversation. That would be really nice at this point, and then we can converse at length, and then we can bid each other goodbye for this week. And hold on, I'm getting some messages here. Oh, yes. Tazeen ji, you had asked me and you had messaged me, and I still need to get back to you. I couldn't find a flute teacher who was willing, but I shall do my best. So please give me some time. But meanwhile, could we possibly have anybody else who wants to share, to talk about something in this context which they have experienced or want to discuss, or want to make remarks? That would be great. So how about that? How about we open up the house a little bit?
This is Lou Fuki again, Ismail from Detroit. I was just telling Tazeen we're going to visit Pakistan sometimes next year, and I was saying I really wish we can just cross the border and just come see you. Um,
Inshallah.
I have a feeling that if it's possible that one day we're going to be in each other's company, so I can learn from you these details and these things that are very uplifting. And it has this short period has advanced and gave me so much information about my beliefs in sound and the necessity of it. So I really appreciate it.
Pleasure. Pleasure.
I had a question, actually, Dhruv, for you. Asif Bhai was very nice to kind of explain a little bit more about the unstruck sound.
Thank you, Siri, and thank you, Aisha ji, for all your notes and helping to explain many of the things. Go ahead, Mohib Bhai.
Yeah. So I was just going to say, could you please kind of elaborate further on the idea of the unstruck sound and what that means to you and how do you kind of explain it?
Now the whole notion is that, for example, what do we say? La ilaha illallah, right? There is no deity except the supreme deity, right? So now the thing with the unstruck sound is that there is this link between the unstruck sound, there is a link between the unstruck sound and the perception of the ultimate truth. So for Sufis, this has to do with marifat. Like Baba Bulle Shah, he says that La ilaha ki seedhi pe baith ke अनहद नाद बजाऊंगी मैं रूठा यार मनाऊंगी मैं रूठा यार मनाऊंगी. So now the thing is that there is a I don't know, it's a kind of a parallel reality, right? It's what's happening here. Like Hazrat Amir Khusro says, Sajan milavara is aangan mein, us aangan mein. So there is an imprint of whatever is going on in the cosmos, which is the macrocosm, which is going on inside of us, right? And if we find a way to connect to that, if we find a way to connect to that cosmic reality, to reach closer and closer and closer to reaching closer and reaching out for the ultimate truth, to be able to understand as the Sufis say, to reach Marifat al-Ihsan, then we understand what it is. We understand the concept of Nada Brahma, or we understand the concept of the unstruck sound. And now, for example, the word kun. Now, for example, this is an example of what I'm talking about. That when there was nothing, right? When even nothing was nothing, B was uttered. So there was not even any vibration to support the sound. Like, for example, so this is the sign that there is something which is working on its own energy, right? Al-Hayyul Qayyum, right? So the idea is that there is, how do you reach this? How is like what Kabir and Bulle Shah and others have talked about, this notion. Today we have things like Nada Yoga and things like that. Yeah, they're great too. But reaching a vibratory experience where there is not even any need of vibration, right? And so how do you enjoy a vibratory experience without even there being vibrations? So only such a power can create that, right? And that if you reach closer and closer to understanding that, then perhaps you will reach closer and closer to the understanding of the unstruck sound. So this sound occurred at a time when there was nothing to even strike against. Like when we speak, what does our breath hit? Right? It hits our vocal cords, right? So they vibrate, and the vibration creates the sound, right? So there is this great analogy, right? Which the Sabri brothers give in this qawwali, right? Zarb ke saude se jisdam tant ghabarane lagi, मैं के बदले तू ही तू की सदा आने लगी, right? So there's this whole story about the goat, who says meh, meh, meaning me, right? And then eventually, it's completely used up for different things. Somebody takes the meat for nourishment, and somebody takes the skin away to make a drum and beat the drum. So think about this, right? And then somebody takes its trotters away to make soup. I don't know. Somebody uses the bones to do something, and then finally, wallahi, Hazrat. Yes, me too. Yeah, I want some halim now. So, yeah, all this description is making me hungry as well. So its intestines are used to, like guts, the gut strings, right? The guts are used to make various types of string for music instruments. And then when the music instrument is made and then it's struck, what happens? It does not say meh, it says tung, 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 meaning you, right? So when a great Sufi who reached this state, he would say something like this: "Main nahi, sab tu hi tu hai." Now I find that you is vibrating inside of me. So the power of the energy which can create sound without any vibration, without the need of any vibration or anything to strike against, that power, you're connected with that power now. And so that power is reverberating inside of you. And then what does Shah Niaz says? He says something very beautiful. No, this is, I'll tell you, I think this is Bedam Shah Warsi. He says, Man nami goyam anal haq, yar mi goyad bego. This is referring to Hazrat Mansur al-Hallaj. Chu na goyam, chu mara dildar mi goyad bego. I am not the one saying, I am the truth, at the risk of being hung, as Sufis were, for their ecstatic utterances which nobody else could understand. But it's him. The one who is making me describe himself. There's nothing to do with me. I'm just a vessel, right? And so what is vibrating inside is me is not from me, right? It's from him. So main nahi, sab tu hi tu hai. Not me but you. And so when Bulle Shah says La ilaha di sidi te beke anhad naad bajawangi, he is talking about the cosmic sound. He's talking about the cosmic vibratory experience which was brought into being, call it the Big Bang or whatever, with an incident that had no kind of material to make it go. So how did it happen? That's all, we can only conjecture. So this is a very powerful notion, and this is something which Sufi music is engineered to take you closer and closer to, in your own, I always preface this by saying that my Ustad, Ustad Nusrat Ali Khan Sahab, Allah Bakshe, he used to say, I am not a Sufi, I am just a musician. It is my goal and my duty to help the Sufi in their esoteric, in their mystic, in their meditative practice, in order for them to reach closer to their goal. So this music is engineered, sir, to take you there, right? And so that's basically what my take on it. But I think Sidi Asif has been saying some very interesting things, and we would be delighted that if he would give us the benefit of his irshad on this topic, because I know that we have had some many enlightening discussions with him on this topic. So go ahead, Janab, if in case you want to say something.
No, I think in future lessons this can be a real topic of discussion. The question is, how does one experience the phenomenal world around you? And it begins with the whole point of the unstruck sound is that sound requires a striking to create a vibration. And then it requires, think of an eardrum to create a perceiving. And in the Arabic word kun, fayakun, be, and it is, not as it were, it's mistranslated, be, and it is, starts with a consonant letter or a striking letter. Those are equivalent, right? You hear that? It's a striking. And a vibratory letter holds it. Right?
Yes.
It's a vibratory letter. And in the science of yogic sounds, you have letters that go through nasal areas, which reverberate, and others which are striking, etc. So it's a very similar tradition in both the Semitic and the Sanskrit model. So the notion of sound being perceptive is actually embodied in the word kun, right? And all of which helps an individual gets to the sound before it was uttered. And in the biblical tradition, in John, it's referred to first there was the Word, and the Word was with God, and God was the Word. So the God was the Word is the perceptible, and then you go through 3 levels of apprehension. And so it's a very similar construct. And the whole point that you mentioned of the tarana issuing from Pakawaj, it's also strikes. The words become strikes to move somebody through a melodic experience. And so as these lessons continue, as opposed to just talking about it, hopefully, Ustad Saab, you'll actually help us experience it.
Indeed, we will delve deeper and deeper into it. As the Kabbalah, there's a saying in Kabbalah mysticism that the name of the sound is the sound of the name. So we will go, inshallah, deeper and deeper into this. And speaking of Kun and Om and Allah and Narayana and all these things, so I always like to begin. This is something I wrote for His Holiness the Dalai Lama, and it was a real pleasure to sing it for him. So I just want to sing my a little invocation for all of you, and this is in 2 different ragas known as Ragas Bhatiyar and Ragas Marwa, and so these are 2 Indian ragas with both of them have flat rays and sharp fa. So sa, the re, flat ray, then the madhyam or the ma is sharp, and Bhatyar has pancham, but Marwa avoids pancham, and the timings of the day for both are different. However, this was written on a piece of paper on a train returning from Amritsar, the city which is famous for Golden Temple. And this was written in a very interesting situation that we had gone to perform for a family of very wealthy landowners, and then they had kind of abducted us, actually. So what happened was that they forced us to abandon another commitment we had far away in another city because they liked us too much. And they said, tomorrow is our mum's birthday and we are going to put you in a room under guard so you can't leave. So after that, on the way back in a train, so while my friends were experimenting with smoking locked inside the bathrooms of the train, I was busy experimenting, writing down this invocation. So let's see how it goes. re ma re de re na de te re na de re na So we are playing in two modes now. Sa ne da ne re ga ma da ma re ne da sa. This is Marwa. Ga pa da ni re ni da pa ma ga pa ma re. This is Raga Bhatiyar. Ek omkar. Now we are pointing to the unstuck sound, Siddhi. Ek omkar jag ka aadhar, kun ki pukar अपरंपार एक ओंकार जग का आधार कुन की पुकार अपरंपार एक नूर से सब जग उपजा एक नूर से. Now this is in the Guru Granth Sahib. It says एक नूर से सब जग उपजया कौन भले कौन मंदे. From one light the whole universe has been created. Who is high and who is low? So एक ओमकार जग का आधार. So the unstruck sound, the sound of creation, the first vibratory experience itself is the basis of this creation. Kun ki pukar, the reverberation of kun, aparampar, is supreme, all pervading. Ek noor se sab jag upjaya. As I witnessed the Golden Temple while going in the train, I suddenly thought, एक नूर से सब जग उपजा, एक नूर से सब जग उपजा, रोशन है संसार एक ओंकार. And the whole world is lit up thus. जग का आधार ओम की महिमा परंपार. Then we come to our syncretic tradition. Alif se Om. Now for those of you who may not know, Om is not O-M. It's A-U-M. It's Om. So both Allah and Om are spelt with Alif. Alif se Om, Alif se Allah, Alif se Om, Alif se Allah. Zahir o batin nidhir avyaya, Alif se Om. Nidhira avyaya, the direct Vedic corresponding concept to Zahir Batin, or Zahir and Al Batin, the hidden and the revealed and the hidden. Alif se Om, Alif se Allah, Zahir o Batin, Nidir avyaya. ओम से अल्लाह का अलख लगा ले, ओम से अल्लाह का अलख लगा ले, हो जाएगा बेड़ा पार. एक नूर से सब जग उपजा, एक नूर से सब जग उपजा रोशन है संसार एक ओंकार जग का आधार ज्ञान So the when we Om se Allah ka alakh laga le. So Jazakallah. Thank you, Mujib Saab. Thank you for that emoji. I didn't know this was possible. You have opened me up to a new facet of technology. I will also be doing this now. Thank you, Janab, for the ovation. So this composition is about 10 years old, and it eventually got used in a recital of something or the other, and then I forgot all about it. I just remembered it today. Now the idea is that when we talk about Alakh Niranjan, what does Alakh Niranjan mean? Alakh Niranjan is something which the Hindu mystics, that's there, So it's literally, it's very, very similar. It's very, very similar to when we say Hayyul Qayyum Allah, it's very, very similar to that. And so the Alakh Niranjan means light the flame of this unity in your heart, right? And say Om and Allah, and then from Om light this flame of Allah, and then you will indeed how do we say, come beyond the marhala of this kind of these binaries, and you will move beyond these binaries. So this is what the song is trying to talk about. And this invocation is something which, as I said, I tried to use for, I first composed for something for His Holiness the Dalai Lama, and he really appreciated it. And his remarks on Sufism and Islam were very, very kind and very nice. In fact, I do remember long ago. So I think that there is something about tasawwuf, there is something about Sufi music which has an attraction of its own. It attracts people, like Hazrat Amir Khusro, we will discuss next week. Bahar surak se bismil bood shab jaye ke man boodam. So who are these wounded lovers who are dancing? Who are these wounded lovers? We will hear more about it soon. And so I feel that there is something so mesmerizing about the sounds of the Sufis that the whole world has accepted them with open arms and their message. And I think that one of the purpose of this workshop was, as we discussed before, it was to try and bring this to as many of you as possible. And as I said, I would once again stress on the the mingling of the various rivers of our syncretic heritage of South Asia. In fact, the whole of Asia is a continuous heritage dating back to thousands of years. And I think Sufi music is, and the Sufi philosophy, the Sufi thought, is a success story of the amazing way in which we have interiorized the landscape of this great our how do we say, the finding the divine light within ourselves, and then illuminating and interiorizing the whole landscape, and incorporating so many different practices, so many diverse practices into it, and trying to create a space without prejudice, without binaries, where everybody is welcome. So once again, I bid you all welcome, and I hope that we really enjoy being on this journey. And if you ever get bored or have a question, or want to take a break, feel free to do so. And I think all these sessions are being recorded, so at some point we will try and give you access to that as and when we can. And it would be wonderful to have your kind attention, and of course you enriching this whole journey with your own inputs as well. So I want to thank you all very, very deeply, And I want to say that I feel very blessed, and I feel very happy that we are here today and that we will be here for the next few weeks. And the prospect is extremely exciting. So, in these strange and challenging and often dark times, how we can put our worldly worries aside and then be connected through this medium. The mediums can be problematized, but our intention is definitely beyond doubt that of connecting with as many of you as possible, and just having a expanding this whole landscape, this whole space, and owning it, and using it to counter the darkness which often keeps taking us over. So thank you so much, and I hope we will have lots of fun. I'm having lots of fun, and I hope you are too. So if I made any mistakes, then the mistakes are all mine, and not of my teachers, and not of my betters, and not of my elders. So wama akhiru dawana Allah alhamdulillah rabbil alameen. Thank you so much for enjoying, and I hope to see you next week. Aisha ji.
Thank you all. Thank you so much, Ustad ji. Thank you so much. And hopefully we'll see you and meet you next week, inshallah.
Inshallah. Thank you all. Thank you, and good day to you. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.